The Gambino family, a legacy of crime. Introduction. The Gambino crime family is one of the most notorious and powerful criminal organizations in the United States, with roots dating back to the early 20th century. Known for their involvement in extortion, murder, and illegal gambling, the Gambino family has been a central figure in the history of organized crime in America. This life story of the Gambino family explores their rise to power, the key figures who shape the family's legacy, and the criminal activities that have defined their existence. Origins and early years. The origins of the Gambino family can be traced back to the early 1900s when Italian immigrants began forming criminal organizations in New York City. These groups, often referred to as Mafia or Cosa Nostra, were initially involved in petty crimes, but soon expanded their operations to more lucrative ventures, such as bootlegging during Prohibition. In the 1920s, the Mafia in New York was divided into several factions, with the most powerful being the Mafia and Maranzano families. Salvatore Toto d'Aquila, an early leader of what would become the Gambino family, played a crucial role during this time. D'Aquila was a significant figure in the New York underworld, leading a group that operated out of Manhattan and Brooklyn. The Castellammarese War, a bloody conflict between the Mafia and Maranzano factions, led to a realignment of power within the Mafia. The war ended in 1931 with the murders of both Joe Mafia and Salvatore Maranzano, paving the way for the establishment of the Commission, a governing body for the Mafia in the United States. The Gambino family, initially known as the d'Aquila family, was one of the 5 families that emerged from this restructuring. The rise of Carlo Gambino, born in Palermo, Sicily in 1902, is the namesake of the Gambino family and one of the most influential figures in the history of organized crime. Gambino immigrated to the United States in 1921 and quickly became involved in the Mafia, aligning himself with influential figures such as Joe Masseria and later Vincent Mangano. Gambino was known for his cunning and strategic mind, which allowed him to rise through the ranks of the Mafia. After the murder of Vincent Mangano in 1951, Gambino became the underboss of the family under Albert Anastasia. In 1957, Anastasia was assassinated in a barber shop, a hit widely believed to have been orchestrated by Gambino himself. Following Anastasia's death, Carlo Gambino became the head of the family, solidifying his power and renaming the organization after himself. Under Gambino's leadership, the family expanded its operations into various criminal activities, including extortion, drug trafficking, loan sharking, and illegal gambling. Gambino was known for his low-profile approach, preferring to stay out of the public eye while maintaining tight control over the family's operations. His ability to avoid law enforcement scrutiny allowed the Gambino family to flourish during the 1960s and 1970s, becoming the most powerful of the 5 families in New York. Extortion, a lucrative enterprise. Extortion has been one of the Gambino family's most profitable criminal activities, and their influence in this area can be traced back to the early years of the organization. The family has used various methods of extortion to extract money from businesses, individuals, and even other criminals. One of the most common forms of extortion practiced by the Gambino family is the protection racket. In this scheme, the family would offer protection to businesses in exchange for regular payments. Those who refused to pay would often find themselves victims of violence, property damage, or other forms of intimidation. This racket was particularly prevalent in industries such as construction, trucking, and waste management, where the Gambino family had significant influence. The Gambino family also engaged in labor racketeering, using their control over labor unions to extort money from employers and workers. This was especially prominent in the construction industry, where the family would use their connections to ensure that certain contractors received lucrative contracts in exchange for kickbacks. The family would also extort workers by threatening to withhold benefits or job opportunities unless they paid tribute to the Mafia. Another form of extortion practiced by the Gambino family involved loan sharking. The family would lend money at exorbitant interest rates to individuals who were unable to obtain loans from legitimate sources. When borrowers were unable to repay the loans, the family would use threats of violence or other forms of intimidation to collect the debt. This practice not only generated significant profits for the family, but also allowed them to exert control over those who were indebted to them. Murder, a tool of control and retribution. Murder has always been a central component of the Gambino family's operations, used as a tool to maintain control, eliminate rivals, and enforce discipline within the organization. The family's involvement in murder can be traced back to its earliest days, and over the years, the Gambino family has been linked to numerous high-profile killings. One of the most notorious murders associated with the Gambino family was the assassination of Albert Anastasia in 1957. Anastasia, the then head of the family, was gunned down in a Manhattan barber shop in a hit widely believed to have been ordered by Carlo Gambino. Anastasia's murder allowed Gambino to take control of the family, marking a significant turning point in the organization's history. The Gambino family was also involved in the infamous murder of Paul Castellano in 1985. Castellano, who had succeeded Carlo Gambino as the head of the family, was gunned down outside a Manhattan steakhouse in a hit orchestrated by John Gotti, a rising star within the organization. Gotti, known as the Dapper Don for his flamboyant style, had grown frustrated with Castellano's leadership and sought to take control of the family. Castellano's murder catapulted Gotti to the top of the Gambino family and marked the beginning of a new era for the organization. Throughout its history, the Gambino family has used murder as a means of enforcing discipline within the organization. Members who were suspected of disloyalty, betrayal, or cooperation with law enforcement were often killed to send a message to others within the family. These killings were typically carried out by soldiers or enforcers within the family, who were tasked with carrying out orders from the leadership. The Gambino family has also been linked to contract killings, where they would be hired by other criminal organizations or individuals to carry out murders for a fee. These contract killings further expanded the family's influence and reputation within the criminal underworld. Illegal gambling, a cornerstone of Gambino operations. Illegal gambling has been a cornerstone of the Gambino family's criminal empire, generating significant revenue and providing a foundation for the family's other illicit activities. The family's involvement in illegal gambling dates back to the early 20th century, and over the years, they have operated various forms of gambling enterprises, including bookmaking, numbers running, and casino-style operations. Bookmaking, the practice of accepting and paying out bets on various sporting events, has been a major source of income for the Gambino family. The family operated a vast network of bookmakers who would take bets from customers, often operating out of bars, social clubs, or other inconspicuous locations. The profits generated from bookmaking were substantial, and the family would often use their connections to influence the outcomes of certain sporting events to maximize their earnings. Numbers running, a type of illegal lottery, was another profitable venture for the Gambino family. In this scheme, bettors would select a series of numbers, and the winning numbers would be determined based on various methods, such as the last digits of the daily stock market numbers or the total number of runs scored in a baseball game. The family operated a large network of runners who would collect bets from customers and deliver them to the central operation. Numbers running was especially popular in urban areas, and the Gambino family made millions of dollars from this enterprise. In addition to bookmaking and numbers running, the Gambino family also operated illegal casinos, often in secret locations such as basements, warehouses, or private homes. These casinos offered various games of chance, including poker, blackjack, and roulette, and were frequented by both regular gamblers and members of the criminal underworld. The family would take a percentage of the profits from these operations, further adding to their wealth. The Gambino family's involvement in illegal gambling extended beyond New York City, with operations in other parts of the United States and even internationally. The family established connections with other mafia families and criminal organizations, allowing them to expand their gambling enterprises and increase their influence. The John Gotti era. The rise of John Gotti marked a new chapter in the history of the Gambino family. Born in 1940 in the Bronx, Gotti grew up in poverty and quickly became involved in crime, joining a street gang as a teenager. He rose through the ranks of the Gambino family, eventually becoming a capo, or captain, in charge of his own crew. Gotti's rise to power was marked by his involvement in the murder of Paul Castellano in 1985. Gotti, frustrated with Castellano's leadership, orchestrated the hit with the help of his close associates, including Salvatore "Sammy the Bull" Gravano. The murder took place outside Sparks Steakhouse in Manhattan and was one of the most publicized mafia hits in history. Following Castellano's death, Gotti assumed control of the Gambino family, becoming one of the most powerful and high-profile crime bosses in the United States. Gotti's flamboyant personality and tendency to court media attention earned him the nickname the Dapper Don. He was often seen in expensive suits, attending